Ahoy everyone, it is Jeff, aka Godless Scummer. Making another video. It is once again it is a Sunday morning. It's fairly early, not as early as my last one, so hopefully I'm a little more coherent than I was last time out. Gotta say, it was very pleasantly surprised of how many views my last video got. I was maybe thinking it best it'd get 100 odd views or something, and suddenly I look up the next day or whatever, and it's something got like 3,500 views. I'm like, well, what on earth's going on here? That's a lot for me, for a tiny humble little channel like this. Downside of that is, of course, not everyone obviously bothered to listen to what I said, but hey ho, that's par for the course, isn't it? I suppose was the price of having a video that does rather well. Now I'm making this video because I saw a statement on Twitter earlier, and sorry, yes, I still call it Twitter. Sorry, Elon, I don't like this X rebranding. Sorry. And the statement was this. The statement is: claiming there is no evidence for the existence of God is not merely lacking a belief. Okay. Now, that was a statement that was put on by a Christian who seems to be somewhat fairly philosophically minded. I don't really follow this guy, but I want to say I happen to personally agree with that statement. And I'm going to try and lay out why I think that. Before I do, I want to just make something clear. I'm not an authority on this. This is just my views. I am also not telling, because I know I'm going to have to touch on definitions of atheism briefly in a minute, which I don't really want to do because I'm sick to death of having that argument, but I feel I must for this. But I'm not telling you what definition you should use. But I am saying what I am saying is I do see a bit of an issue if you're going to use the lacking a belief thing here. I see a potential issue, but again, these are my thoughts. I may be wrong on this, and if you disagree with me, feel free to do so respectfully in the comments if you can, please. So let's look at that statement for a moment. Claiming there is no evidence to the existence of God is not simply or merely lacking a belief. So let's just talk a bit about definitions. I've talked a bit before on this channel of why I tend to prefer the more philosophical kind of definitions myself, of saying when I say I'm an atheist, what I'm saying is I have a belief that no gods exist. That's what I mean when I'm saying it. Now, I'm not saying you have to use it that way. I know the whole atheism is merely a lack of belief is very popular at the moment, and I see the appeal of it. I see the appeal of it because when with me saying I have a belief that no gods exist, it kind of then there is an onus on me to make a case for why I think that way. And I can understand that not a lot of people want to try and make at that argument that, of saying no gods exist or whatever. Now, even with the way I say it, I'm just saying that is my belief. I'm not claiming knowledge or proof or anything like that, I suppose. Unless you want to get real technical, I'm not claiming knowledge, proof, or anything like that when I say that, but I am saying I have a belief in that that leans in that direction. Um, Now, when you simply say lacking a belief, I mean there's numerous things that can entail. Now, sometimes and a lot of the time it can be interpreted, and I quite often interpret it this way: is it can be interpreted as lacking a belief is a psychological state of lacking a belief. That is that anything that lacks a belief in God is therefore atheist by definition, sort of thing. And I don't like it because I tend to because I tend to view atheism as, like, I kind of tend to view it as it's an answer, it's a take on a proposition, as that is, does God exist? So that's the way I tend to look at it. Now, when you say, so you can possibly say that atheism, lacking a belief, is a sort of as a psychological state. This is why we get, and I hate to bring it up, we get the annual rocks or atheist debacle that seems to cause a schism amongst atheists every single year, or which, and again, I can't stand that whole rocks or atheist argument. I really can't stand it. I don't even like the babies are atheist argument, because I tend to view babies as being innocent of the proposition. I mean, admittedly, I'm just following Graham Oppy on this, and I don't know that it's helpful to sort of I don't know that it's helpful to sort of say that any sort of inanimate object or whatever that lacks agency is therefore atheist. I don't like it. I think I want to say, I think it might have been Trolley Dave of Answers and Reasons who might have used this analogy to make a point of sort of saying that by the same logic you can make a case for veganism being a psychological state of not consuming animal products, and therefore rocks are vegans, or now I think it was Dave. I will tag him when I put this out in case I've misrepresented Dave, and he can correct me on this. And I'm sure if I do get anything wrong in what I'm saying, Dave will be the first to correct me. So back to the other part of that statement then, that claiming, and that is the claiming there is no evidence for the existence of God. So there is a problem there if you're one of these people that is going to argue that it's a psychological state. Then you make that claim there is no evidence. There's a problem there, because it's implying that you have analysed the proposition by the very nature of that statement, saying that if I say there is no evidence for the existence of God, it is implying that I have made a analysis on the proposition of does God exist. So you need to think about that if you're going to use that. Now, you might use lack of belief, but also believe that some people seem to be halfway on this, and sort of will say they might use lacking belief, but also that it's still a matter of making a judgment on a proposition, and their judgment is they lack belief. Now, I think there's a lot of pitfalls with that, but I won't necessarily get into that right now, because a lot of the time it is, I think sometimes better arguments would sometimes have been said that a lot of people will just say, and will just say, I'm not convinced of the case. And again, here's the thing here. I will say, I should back up a second and say something that I actually would don't necessarily like this claim that there is no evidence for the existence of God. I think if anyone makes a case for the existence of God, they're trying to bring some sort of evidence to the table. Now that evidence might not be convincing to you, which is one thing. It certainly doesn't convince me. So a lot of the time, atheists will just say, "I'm not convinced," which, okay, you can do that. Do that if you wish. That's fine. But again, I tend to go a little further and just say that on the evidence that's been presented to me, that I am of the belief that no God exists. And for me to just simply say I'm not convinced, well, like if you're a philosophical agnostic, you're also not convinced you're not convinced on the existence of God, and you're not convinced either way there. And I will say, look, like philosophical agnosticism is a thing. It's just why I don't like the term agnostic atheist personally, but as well. So, but that's maybe a discussion for another time. Oh, sorry. So, I guess what I'm saying is, I would, I actually would caution any atheist, whatever you're leaning on this, about making the statement there is no evidence for the existence of God. I don't think it's. I don't necessarily know that I concur with that. I tend to think that there is evidence that's presented. It's not convincing to me, and on the balance, and the arguments are not convincing to me. And actually, on balance, and I will, like I said, I go a step further, and I say, on balance of all the evidence that I am aware of and all the arguments that I'm aware of, I lean strongly towards the idea that there is no God, and that's the way I just happen to interpret that. So, but it's just be careful of the pitfall. I guess I'm just saying, be careful of the pitfalls I think you can get into if you're just going to say I lack a belief, but then also say there is no evidence. Just be aware of that pitfall and how that can be interpreted and how that can be used. I guess is what I'm trying to say. And now again, I might be completely out to lunch on this. I might be totally wrong. I'm sure people who think I'm wrong are going to let me know so in the comments. And again, these are just my thoughts. I'm no authority. I'm not a philosopher. Though I tend to lean towards more philosophical definitions and philosophical arguments for my my way I believe. And and then another little thing, that don't treat belief is not a dirty word. Okay, I understand the aversion to it, which is another thing why people want to say they lack belief. I understand it, that belief can feel like a bit of a dirty word, especially if you've come from religion or something. I totally understand that. But those are just my thoughts on the subject anyway. So yeah, usual stuff. Leave a like, leave a comment. If you think this is any good, share it. If you think I'm complete bilge, share it and tell me what. Share it and get other people to tell me why I'm speaking complete bilge as well. So okay, so this has been Jeff, aka Godless Scummer. I'll see you all later. Salute.